Thanks so much for joining me today. I'm so excited to talk to you today.
I'm so excited to be part of this, Kate. I'm just so excited and humbled that you've chosen me to be a part of this. So thank you for
Yeah.
having me.
Yeah, I think talking to the pros is, we're growing, and I think you're definitely a professional in your industry and interior design and staging. So I'm really excited. I think you bring so much value to the industry. So I'm really excited to talk to you today, and I'm sure our audience is going to get a lot of value from this conversation as well. So if you don't mind, let's get started and let's talk a little bit about you and a little bit about A Lady's Touch, or ALT, and how you got started. And of course, where you are now, and you've grown such an amazing team and such an amazing business. So tell us a little bit about you and the journey that got you here.
So ALT went through so many different renditions. We were A Lady's Touch, then we became ALT, and now we're ALT Interiors. And the reason that we chose that name is because we offer more stages, more services outside of staging. We do interior design. We also have our own line of furniture that we're selling, our own line of artwork. We do virtual staging. So I wanted a name that would be kind of an umbrella that could allow us to branch out into so many different design territories. So there's that. I've opened this business now for 8 years. The team has grown from just me to nearly a dozen people, and we're looking to franchise outside of Ontario. So tremendous growth. And none of that would have been possible without you, of course, Kate, finding me such exceptional talent to add to the roster. So you've been a huge part of that as well.
Thank you. I appreciate the compliment, but the foundational pieces of ALT is definitely all you, and you've done an incredible job of that as well. Congratulations on all of the things that you've got happening in the pipeline as well. I know, obviously, up and until a certain point, ALT was just Farah, right? It was just you, probably doing stuff out of your basement or your garage, right?
Yep.
As most entrepreneurs get started.
Yep.
Can you tell me a little bit about what was that pivotal sort of push that got you to hire that first team member that you knew you really needed help in order to grow your business?
I can say that the decision to hire my first team member was definitely a significant milestone in the growth of my business. It was a pivotal moment. I found myself struggling to keep up with the demand for my services. I was working long hours, and at some point, I was even turning down clients. I just didn't
Wow.
have the bandwidth to take it on. And at that point, I realized that if I wanted to grow my business, I needed to build a team. The role that I hired for initially was a staging assistant. And as my business continued to grow, I began to hire additional team members to help with tasks such as project management, marketing. And honestly, with strong team members in place, A Lady's Touch has been able to expand our services and take on more complex projects.
Yeah, absolutely. 100%. And you do have a very versatile team as well, which I think is a great thing to have in place in order to continue expanding the services of the team as well, right? So, as you've mentioned, and as we all know, you have some incredibly talented people. Actually, all of your people are incredibly talented in different ways. How do you recognize talent? How do you notice that spark right away in somebody?
I look for, that's a good question, Kate. a, a person's potential, I think my go-to indicators are a good attitude and a strong mindset. I believe that talent doesn't always just come down to what someone's accomplished in the past, but more so about their ability and willingness to learn and try new challenging things, and someone who's constantly looking to develop and grow. Then I think as a leader, it's important to set those clear expectations, evaluate performance, and offer feedback as often as possible to nurture that talent. So that's how I was able to find and nurture and retain talent, I think.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, working with you as well, I know that you're somebody that focuses a lot on, people that are proactive in their life and their career and their learning, have definitely a positive attitude, because I mean, that's
Everything.
half the battle right there, because there's
Yeah.
challenges in every single business, on every project. There's always something that can go wrong, and you need to make sure that you have people that are capable and are equipped to handle these challenges as well, right?
Mhm.
In order to hire them and continue to grow them as well. Can we talk a little bit about, staging and interior design in a little bit more detail, and talk about some of the challenges and the obstacles that could possibly arise during any project, and that you've definitely seen, some that are maybe a little bit more common than others? And then, of course, what are people, consumers, what can they do in order to avoid some of these challenges in the future?
Well, some of the challenges, as in any business, is just making sure that the client is ultimately happy. Staging is so important when it comes to marketing homes,
Right.
and more people that are used to seeing HGTV shows expect beautiful designs. So the expectation to create exceptional work is so valuable and so important. But there's a clear difference between staging and interior design that I think some clients can mix up. For instance, staging is the the designer, meaning the company you've hired, is responsible for designing in a way that's going to cater to a large audience in order to get you as many buyers, as many traffic through the doors, not so much to your personal taste. And I always say this to the client: when you're selling your house, don't treat it like it's your house anymore. Treat it like it's no longer your home. And sometimes clients are very opinionated about the design, and at the end of the day, what's most important to me is making sure that the client has a great experience working with us. So I always offer suggestions, but ultimately they have the final say. And if they so choose to use purple as opposed to white and beige, we're going with the purple, right? But that's not something that we would advise. With interior design, the client is always making the
Right.
decisions, and we're helping them along the way. So that's the clear difference. And just making sure that at the forefront of everything we do is customer service. And I always make it a point to let everyone on the team know that it's most important that our client is happy at the end of every interaction.
100%. And your team definitely accomplishes that. I know they're lovely individuals who are friendly and definitely take people's feelings into account as well. But you're absolutely right. I think about some of those home improvement shows and how they represent the staging versus the interior design, and it's just so different. It's a different way of thinking about what it is that you're hoping to accomplish, right? Are you hoping to be happy with your home in 10 years after doing this project, or are you hoping to get, not to get rid of it, but to sell this
Yeah.
home, right, at the most value possible? And so definitely thank you for that lesson. I think that was a great reminder to people, to remember. So let's talk a little bit about some of the maybe success stories that you've had in the past that you can share. Maybe some really memorable projects that you work on that were sort of outside of the scope of your experience at the time, at least.
There's so many that we've had the privilege of working on, like so many successful and memorable projects, I have to say. But the one that comes to mind is two luxury penthouses that were in the heart of the city. It was a listing for a reputable builder. Those two penthouses were side by side, and they were on the market for several months before we were brought in to stage it. And when I first saw the space, I instinctively knew that these two units had incredible potential. And so what we ended up doing is we created a masculine look for one of the penthouses and a more feminine look for the second. And we made sure to highlight unique features of each space and we made sure to appeal to that target demographic. And the results were astounding. The penthouses sold within 2 weeks of being staged, and for actually significantly more than the previous asking price.
Amazing. That's a huge accomplishment for sure. And what an interesting way. I mean, it's such a cool, unique experience to have two properties that are side by side, right? And that are so similar, probably in their layout. And what an interesting experiment to be able to throw that gender spin on it, almost, right? To cater
Yeah.
to different demographics and show the spaces off in different ways. That sounds really cool. For sure. So how do you, I know design and staging, it's a saturated industry. I think we both know that. And there's constantly sort of young and upcoming designers and stagers that are coming out of, colleges, universities, and things like that, hoping to make a name for themselves. So, for how do you stay current on design trends? Not even current, how do you stay ahead of the curve, right? Because I mean, you are the best in the business, and so
Oh,
I want to know how you stay fresh and how do you come up with your own designs so that are so unique to ALT that nobody can really compete with them.
Oh, that's very kind of you to say, Kate. I think it's important to attend industry events and conferences. I make it a priority, as you know, that's where we met,
Yes.
to attend industry events and to learn about new design trends, network with other professionals, gain insight on what's new in product and technologies. I also read a lot, and I like reading about design trends in the news. It helps me understand what's popular in the market, and of course, there's social media. I follow designers I look up to. I get inspiration from their work, from my own. And I think it's important that I'm constantly updating my inventory with new furniture and decor. That way we can keep styles fresh and current. So yeah, that's kind of the things that I do to keep current and on trend.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, you're right with the with industry events and conferences and things like that. You get to meet so many interesting people, and sometimes even though they're completely outside or almost outside of your industry, they're so inspirational that sometimes it sort of sparks something new in you, right? And makes you want to create something different. So that is fantastic. The pandemic, I mean, now we're hopefully out of it. How has that impacted the staging and the interior design industry? And also, how did you and your business adapt to meet these new challenges?
Well, I mean, I found that the home staging industry as a whole, and this is just my experience, um, had thrived in some ways during the pandemic. Originally, there was an increased demand for virtual staging. With so many real estate agents, hesitant to have open
Of
houses,
course,
and
yeah.
so we saw a significant increase in the demand for our virtual staging options, which, for those that don't know, allows potential buyers to see what a home would look like with furniture and decor without physically being in the space.
Hmm.
Um, we were also able to create staging proposals virtually, meaning clients would send us videos and then we would send them a quote within a few minutes. And this is something that now we continue to use. It's allowed us to become more efficient at creating quotes without sacrificing quality in design, of course. And I think just as a result of these adaptations and our commitment to providing exceptional service during a challenging time, I think my business just emerged stronger out of it. Yeah.
100%. That virtual staging tool, do you also use it for interior design projects, just to show people what their space would look like after the project is done?
After the project is done, no, but more so before the project to give them a clear indication on where we're going with the design. We still promote it now, even though the pandemic is hopefully closing and coming to an end. With all kinds of budgets that people are allowed, every house is different, but we ultimately offer hybrid models for staging where we can suggest staging potentially primary rooms, living room, dining room. And then if the budget doesn't allow for the family room or the upper floor, well, then we'll virtually stage those. And that's significantly lower in cost, but you're still being able to provide a superior marketing compared to the competition.
Wow, that's really cool.
So
I never thought that you can do that as a hybrid, and I've never heard of this. That's really unique. I love it. Um,
staying on top of
You are
everything.
awesome. You're literally ahead of the curve. And so, I know obviously staging is typically done in order to sell the home. So, how do you measure success of a staging process? What are sort of those key indicators for you to know that the home has been staged in the most, in the most compelling way, and that hopefully the client will get the most bang for their buck?
Right. Well, I mean that's exactly it. Ultimately, client satisfaction is the most important indicator of a successful staging project. If my client is happy with the results and the staging helped them sell their home faster and for the highest price, then I consider that project to be successful.
Yeah, yeah, 100%. I would as well. And those penthouse suites were definitely a good example of that for sure. What would you say? And I'm sure you do this all the time, and now your team is trained to do that as well. What advice would you give to somebody who is debating on whether or not they should hire a staging company like yours?
Well, I mean, we need to consider the client's goals, right? Now, if their goal is to sell quickly and for the highest price possible, then hiring a stager can help you achieve that. Staging is about highlighting the home's best features, creating an inviting atmosphere that will appeal to as many potential buyers as possible. So, hiring a stager is definitely something I like to say is an investment. I've trained the team to use the word investment, not cost, because when selling a home, by creating a welcoming and an inviting atmosphere, you'll attract more potential buyers, and that will ultimately result into a higher sales price.
Absolutely. And it's interesting, especially now, the market has changed so much, since I remember the first time I even bought a home, and the pictures of our home were absolutely abysmal. They were probably shot with like a flip Nokia phone. They had no furniture. It was a vacant house, and it's been on the market for, I think, over a month and a half. And probably due in part to those absolutely awful pictures that were on MLS. And so, I'm sure that if, had this home been staged by your company, it would have sold in no time. So and had a great photographer take pictures of it as well, that would have definitely helped. It's just, I find it very fascinating that that you still see such a huge sort of difference between some homes that are listed on MLS and how beautifully they're presented, and the video tours that people invest in. I think that's definitely the right keyword there, in order to get their home sold faster, right? To not cause as many disruptions to their personal life, to their family life, right? And just kind of do an open house, have a couple of showings, and be done with it before the end of the week, as opposed to have a home for sale for 40 days, 50 days, and still really only get maybe the value that you were hoping just to get out of it, right? And nothing more. So
I always say
um,
this,
yeah.
a price adjustment on the home is far more significant than the investment in staging. And carrying costs for the home can even exceed the cost of staging if your home doesn't sell in 1 month and you're carrying it for longer.
Right.
So, those are some things to consider also when you're deciding on whether or not to hire a stager.
Yeah, those are great points as well. You're absolutely right. If you've already moved out to your new home that you've purchased, you're now carrying two mortgages, right? And so that alone can cost you more than staging. And most of us certainly can't afford to take that much of a financial risk, not knowing when that previous home is going to sell. So definitely a great point. You as a business owner, I mean, you carry a lot on your shoulders. You've got a lot going on. How do you keep yourself and your team members motivated at all times?
It's a good question. Well, we always have music on in the office,
Yeah.
but you know what? Jokes aside, I like to celebrate our successes. Whenever we achieve like a major milestone or we complete a big staging project, a big design project, I always I make it a point to celebrate with the team. It's also important to provide a positive work environment. That's why having a positive attitude is so important to me. Um, Having music on, I think, allows us to just, stay awake and enjoy,
Yeah.
and just keep everything cheerful. And I'm
Having
also
fun. Yeah.
very having fun, yeah. And I'm also very flexible with my team. If they need time off, I'm always there to let them know that if you need something, you can come to me. I think just having that kind of relationship is important. And I make it a point to let my team know that they're appreciated and valued. And I think that leads to this ultimate motivated team at the end of the day.
Yeah, absolutely. And even if somebody comes in and they might not be having the greatest day, if the team is positive, they're smiling, the music's pumping, right? And the coffee
Exactly.
is flowing.
Oh,
That's
yes.
important as well, right?
That's
That does
important.
make all the difference, and it does put you definitely in a better sort of headspace, right? In order to continue going, and makes work a fun place to come to, as opposed to, the place that we dread going to on a Monday morning. So I've been in your office and your warehouse, and I know that's definitely definitely not the case. I don't think anyone's dreading coming into work. It's just such a fun environment and such a welcoming one as well. So
Thank
definitely
you.
makes my life a lot easier when I'm recruiting for your company. So
I should add too, like no 2 days are the same. We were having conversations with team members recently about this. It's not like you're sitting down and you're expected to do the same thing every day. Every day presents a new set of challenges. We're working on a brand new house. We got new clients on the go. No 2 days are ever the same. And I think just having that, knowing that you're going to be challenged, I think that's also part of why people enjoy working here. It's never a dull day at
yeah,
ALT.
definitely not boring. Absolutely. A fun, very colorful industry for sure.
Yeah.
Very dynamic. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining me today. I really appreciate you taking the time. And I hope that this was informative to our viewers. And I really look forward to seeing you again at the next event.
I look forward to seeing you too. Thank you so much for having me.